So here at Paul's Place, this is a bereavement service that is provided by Beacon Counselling Trust. Paul's Place was actually launched back in October 2017. It's named in memory of Paul Jensen, who is the brother of Kathy Devlin, who is the lead person here at Paul's Place in Beacon, and of my son, Paul Williams. I used to laugh about the fact that Paul was due, you know, his birth date was due 23rd of December 1986. And when people used to say to me, like, about, you know, babies being born late, you know, they were a week overdue or what have you, and I'd say, well, my baby, you know, at that time, Paul, he was due in 1986 and didn't actually arrive till 1987. But the fact was, obviously, he was born the 3rd of January, so he was, in effect, only really like 2 weeks late. But it was a very content child. He had a, well, I'd say he had a very happy childhood.
So I received an email from Claire Williams, and the date of the email came on the 28th of September 2015, and Claire was telling me that she'd lost her brother Paul to suicide, and she was desperately looking for some support for her mum and dad. Ironically, the date that the email was received was what would have been my brother Paul's 23rd anniversary. We lost Paul 23 years from that date to suicide. Now, Beacon never provided any sort of service for anybody who was bereaved by suicide, but there was just too many things in the email, like obviously the name, the same Paul, very similar ages. My brother was 29, Paul Williams was 28. And I just thought this could have been my mum. So although we didn't offer a service as such, I just asked Claire to get her mum to ring me. Following on from that, Agnes did make the call and we had a little chat, and I invited her to come in. And just talking to her, you know, I just saw the desperation really, and the fact that she desperately needed some sort of support. And like I say, I kept thinking back to my own mum 23 years previous. So I invited Agnes in to come and start working with one of our therapists. And a couple of weeks later, Joe then came in and started working with one of the therapists as well. And this went on for a period of time. I've always known, you know, that this sort of service is needed. When we lost our Paul, there was nothing, you know, set up. So through Agnes and Joe working with two of our therapists, you know, that really helped them. So much so, when what would have been their Paul's 30th birthday, there was a celebration. You know, one of their friends had organised an evening, and they actually came in on the Monday with a £2,000 donation to Beacon to say thank you for the support they'd had. And that's really what got me thinking of the idea of Paul's Place. So we looked at the things. I was thinking, both Paul, both similar age, both avid Liverpool supporters, both loved their music. Both had studied and lived in Sheffield. There was just so many similarities, and I just got to thinking, do you know what, we've got to do something to support people that have been bereaved by suicide, and what better than to do it, you know, in the two Pauls' memory and name. And that's how we came up with the idea of Paul's Place.
When Agnes, or when my daughter Claire had first contacted Beacon and they offered us counselling, I was unsure as to whether it was for me. I had these visions in my head of probably watched too many American movies where it was someone went to see a counsellor and it was come in, lie on the couch, tell me all about your childhood. And that's my vision of it. Obviously, that's not the way it is. So when Agnes had already accessed the counselling and she explained to me what it was like, I thought, well, I'll give it a go, because I was in a bad place and I thought I need to do something. So I accessed Paul, well, it wasn't Paul's Place then, it was Beacon Counselling Trust. And I've got to say it was a lifeline. The help that I got here was absolutely fantastic. The counsellors, they help you to understand the emotions that you're going through, the feelings that you're going through. And you've also got someone to offload all of those things. Again, as a man, you keep it all in. You don't have as much chance as women do as to talk about your feelings and express it. But when you come here, the counsellor is basically saying, give it to me, offload it all. So whatever thoughts you've had, which might seem crazy to some people, you can tell them, and you're not going to get laughed at. You're not going to, no one's going to make a criticism about you.
But we both knew that it really mattered that we had individual counselling, because in our situation, being a couple with the loss of a child, if one was having a particularly bad day, and all right, yeah, there are many bad days that you'll have, but the days where maybe Joe was a little bit stronger and, I was the one who was just falling apart, he felt, well, I've got to be strong, I've got to support Agnes and I've got to be there for her. And vice versa on the days when, if I could see he was good and I think, well, I don't want to drag him down to where I am, so you'll put this front on. Coming here and having that counselling separately from each other was our chance to exactly offload everything for that 1 hour, and basically it was our lifeline. It was the absolute godsend, because I don't know what I really expected after we lost Paul with regard to getting support, but like so many people I think who we've spoken to since, it's almost as if you'd imagine, well, hang on, surely somebody's going to ring, somebody's going to turn up on my door, I'm going to get a letter from somewhere, somebody's going to offer me some kind of support, because isn't really that what happens? But sad to say, no.
After you lose someone to suicide, you still have to function, you still have to do the normal things, you have to go out shopping. This is when the funeral's over and everyone's gone back, your family and friends have gone back to their jobs and to their lives, which it's what they've got to do. So you're then left, you've got to sort of do the normal things in life. So you go out to a supermarket, and I found that I was walking down the aisle of a supermarket. We would choose to go out to a supermarket we needed shopping late at night when there was less people around, for the fear of bumping into someone who, might ask you about things. So you do that purposely. You might be walking down the aisle of a supermarket and have no thought about what you've been through. You're thinking about, what do we need in the house? What groceries do you need? And without seeing anything on the shelf which connects you to the person you've lost, you just find that you're just crying your eyes out, and you're like, where's this come from? What's this about? You know what I mean? But when you talk to your counsellor, they can help talk you through those kind of situations and explain a bit more as to why that happens to you.
To everybody else around him, yeah, Paul was great, Paul was fine, Paul was, he has a very caring nature. He couldn't stand by if he thought somebody was being, wronged in any way and they didn't have a voice to speak up for themselves. Paul would speak up on their behalf, maybe sometimes, I don't know whether he always asked, did they mind if he did that, but he just felt it, it was obligation, it was his duty to do that. And I'm proud that that's the kind of thing that he did. But he felt, for whatever reason, I don't know, that he didn't feel comfortable that he could ask for help and support when he needed it.
We need to teach young boys in school from infants that it's okay to talk about your feelings. We all have good days, we have bad days, but when that's developing into a major depression, that's a different matter. But because we hold everything into ourselves, we're not getting it out. Where girls seem to be able to do that better, communicate how they're feeling. So that's one of the problems that we have as a man when you find yourself in this situation. Suicide bereavement is not like normal bereavement. It's very complex. You're left with lots of unanswered questions, lots of if, buts and maybes. I should have said this, I could have done that. Alongside the trauma, the stigma, and in some cases the shame of losing someone that way. People who've been affected by suicide are up to 300% more likely to go on and take their own lives. So the Postvention counselling service that we provide here at Paul's Place is the prevention service for future generation.
And it was really, sadly, only I'd say in the last 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks before he died when we got to know how bad he was feeling. And I think for us it was then the reality, not just for us in the position we're in now, that there's no support for us. There was very little support out there for Paul at that time when he needed it. Getting back to why Paul's Place exists, I suppose, is the fact that we were coming here, we had the privilege of being offered the counselling anyway. And what would have been Paul's 30th birthday, a very good friend of ours said that she wanted to do a charity night, an event, to mark what would have been his 30th, and to do it as a fundraiser. But she wanted to run it by us, obviously, first. So we said, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're prepared to help in any way we can. So she did the fundraising night, and it was a roaring success. And the money raised from that, well, the bulk of the money, we split it over 3 charities. But the bulk of it, we said, you know, are you okay if we give this to Beacon Counselling for the help we've had? And she said, yeah, it's yours, absolutely, do what you wish. So when we came in for our counselling session, I can always remember Kathy saying, oh, I need to see you, you know, once you've had your counselling. So I've just got something to run by you. So she sat with us and she said, I haven't been able to sleep last night, she said. And she said, I had pad and paper at the side, pad and pen at the side of my bed. She said, I've been like making notes and that. She said, I've got something to ask you. She said, the money that you've given, the £2,000, she said, I would love to plough it into something that can help people, like, you know, in our situation, people bereaved by suicide. She said, and I can't do it on my own, she said, because Beacon Counselling Trust offer different forms of counselling. They run a gambling project which they're funded for, so they can offer that free. They offer, you know, all different kinds of counselling, general counselling. But she wanted this to be specific for people bereaved by suicide. And she said, I don't have the time or the, you know, the oomph to do it on my own. Would you come on board with us? So we said, yeah, in any way we can help, we will. We decided, you know, this was something that was very necessary, and we needed to get our act together and apply to, you know, any organisation who would listen to us and hopefully help fund it, basically. And it was a hard slog. And what we said, we came up with the date in the October to actually launch Paul's Place. And the idea was if we could help 40 people within that first year by offering them up to 20 free sessions, one-to-one counselling, that, you know, we could hopefully help people move on and be, you know, it's not something that you'll ever get over. Your world will never be the same, but it may sort of get you in, you know, get you back on track and get you to be like to function, shall we say, because I think, you know, when it happens to you, you know, you think, well, what is there for me anymore? You know, it's like, well, your world's ended as well. I always look now as my life in 2 chapters, basically. So it was while Paul was here and my life after Paul. And yeah, I'm entirely different to how I was before, and why wouldn't I be?
The figures at the moment in this country are 84 men per week take their own lives. That's absolutely disgusting for this country to admit. That's not including the females who, again, take their own lives. But the higher figure of the two is the male. So that's prominently what's portrayed out there. The actual cost to the country per death is £1.7 million. that alone, if you just take in the financial loss to the country, is absolutely horrendous. But it's more horrendous for the families who lose someone this way. There's no help out there. Prior to their deaths, we were looking for our son to get help, and there's virtually nothing.
There's things that used to bother me, you know, when Paul was here, that don't mean that to me anymore, and there's other things by the same token that didn't bother me that matter hugely to me now. I just think the work that's being done here at Paul's place is incredible. The number that we came up with in the first year to help 40 people, we knew it was roughly costing about £1,000 per head, so that was a big ask to get like 40 grand together. The reality of it was, within the first year, we had actually 78 people who'd accessed, so that was even, you know, more than we could have ever anticipated.
But one of the things that you find is, in Paul's place we have a drop-in, and we also have a group session, and there's very few men come to that. We do have men who are accessing counselling in Paul's place, but very few men have come to the drop-in sessions and come to the group sessions. And again, I think it's the same old thing that we've all been brought up, men have always brought up with the, you know, big boys don't cry, and, you know, just suck it up and all this, and it's all wrong, and we've got to change the way we think about how men deal with their emotions. It's not, you should never be ashamed if you cry because of something like this, but we've been brought up to think that it is wrong. It's not wrong, it's normal. We're a human being, we have emotions exactly the same as women do, but we've been brought up, you don't show it. That's one of the things that we want to sort of progress within Paul's place, is that we want to get more men involved and get them in the group sessions and let them feel at home, and if they get upset, fine. No one's going to look at them differently. No one's going to sort of be sniggering or anything. Everyone is accepted within the group as you've lost somebody, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman. Doesn't matter. We
pride ourselves here on people after they make contact with us, in trying to get support for them, basically within a 2-week turnaround. So normally Kathy does all the assessments. People are assessed normally within 3 to 5 working days, and then following up usually with the first counselling appointment within a week after that.
If I'd have carried on without getting the help that was, you know, with the counselling service, I don't know where I'd be now. It's so difficult to even think where I would have been. But the service that I've received here has been fantastic.
When you talk to other people who have lost somebody, you know, this way, it's amazing how many things that have happened to you that also happened to them. And I think that's where the peer support side of Paul's place is important, because, you know, there are days where you think, you'll have thoughts and ideas, and then you think, you know, oh God, that's absolutely bizarre. How could you even think that? But then it all sort of gets put into perspective when you hear other people saying, oh yeah, that's exactly what I did. That's how I was. So, you know, if anything, it sort of gives you that, you know, little bit of hope that, yeah, you know, you have still got your sanity. It's not that you know, it's not just happening to you. You know, this is probably normal in our circumstances, in our situation. What Joe always says, he says, you know, he doesn't, we both believe that, but he doesn't believe that Paul wanted to take his own life, that Paul actually wanted to die. Paul just wanted the pain to stop, you know.